Dear viewers, the much awaited April month video of Target UPSC Prelims 2020 series is now available in Shankar IAS Academy YouTube channel. Click here to watch that video.
Welcome to the Hindi News Analysis by Shankar IAS Academy. The list of topics chosen for today's discussion along with the page numbers is given here for your reference. Let us start today's news analysis.
Let us take up this editorial which talks about credibility of Rajya Sabha as a forum for intellectual debates. In the last 2 weeks we have talked about Rajya Sabha and its elections, presiding officers, etc. In today's discussion we mainly talk about the credibility of Rajya Sabha. If you recollect, in yesterday's discussion we have talked about the open ballot system for Rajya Sabha as well as problems associated with open ballot, 10th schedule, etc. The syllabus relevant for this discussion is given here for your reference. First, we shall see what is the purpose of creation of Rajya Sabha or the upper house. See, as we all know, India is a vast nation with endless cultural, social and ethnic diversities. So the Constituent Assembly thought that a federal system would be more suitable form of government to meet the needs of different sections of people. And our current Council of States Rajya Sabha is almost inspired from Government of India Act of 1935. So in the bicameral legislature, the lower house is Lok Sabha and the upper house is the Council of States, that is Rajya Sabha. Here Rajya Sabha is a federal chamber. It means it represents the interests of federal units, that is states. So the members of federal chamber are elected by the elected members of assemblies of states and union territories. Also, apart from the elected members, the president can nominate 12 members amongst persons having special knowledge and practical experience in matters like literature, science, art and social service. In addition, the Vice President of India is the ex officio chairman of Rajya Sabha who presides over its sittings. So overall, we can infer that Rajya Sabha is meant to maintain federal equilibrium by protecting the interests of states from undue interference of center. So this was the proposed aim or goal of Rajya Sabha. So in coming to the functions of Rajya Sabha, it was placed on equal footing with the Lok Sabha in most of the matters like passage of ordinary bills, passage of constitutional bills, election and impeachment of president, removal of chief justice, judges, etc. However, Lok Sabha has some powers with respect to money bills, financial bills, budget, passage of no confidence motion to remove government, etc. Here it is important to know that there are even some special powers of Rajya Sabha which Lok Sabha doesn't enjoy. For example, under Article 249, Rajya Sabha can authorize Parliament to make a law on subject which is in state list. Under Article 312, Rajya Sabha can authorize Parliament to create new All India services like IAS, IPS, etc. So this is with respect to special powers of Rajya Sabha. So what is the utility of Rajya Sabha? When we already have a house like Lok Sabha, which represents interests of all people in the country, why do we need another house called Rajya Sabha? Here you can note 2 to 3 important points why Rajya Sabha is important or why Rajya Sabha is necessary. First, it checks hasty, defective or careless legislations made by Lok Sabha. So whenever Lok Sabha comes up with a hasty or a defective bill, Rajya Sabha can make some recommendations. It can even modify the contents of the bill. Further, it facilitates giving representation to eminent professionals who cannot face direct election. So President can nominate 12 such persons to Rajya Sabha. So by nominations, we can bring eminent professionals and experts to the deliberations of Parliament. And the most important one is, Rajya Sabha maintains federal equilibrium by protecting the interests of states against the undue interference from the center. So far we have discussed why Rajya Sabha is created, what are its functions and why is it necessary. In this context, the news article talks about the reducing effectiveness of Rajya Sabha. The editorial mentions the malpractices like horse trading by political parties in order to increase their strength, or ruling parties using constitutional and parliamentary provisions to bypass Rajya Sabha while making laws. For example, there were many accusations on present government that the important bills are designated as money bills to bypass Rajya Sabha. The news article also mentions about steady increase of businessmen and celebrities in Rajya Sabha. So this further reduces the quality of deliberations and quality of recommendations in the Rajya Sabha or Council of States. In this context, the article mentions that the House of Elders, which is Rajya Sabha, is considered to be a forum of scholarship and statesmanship. But due to the factors which we have discussed just now, which include horse trading, poaching of MLAs of opposition parties, and increase of businessmen and celebrities in Rajya Sabha, the expected scholarship and statesmanship is reducing. So this is all about this news article. The practice question will be discussed at the end of session. Let us take up the next news article. Let us take up this news article from editorial page of today's newspaper. This article is written by Secretary General of Commonwealth. And talking about Commonwealth, note that Maldives has rejoined Commonwealth in February 2020. With this, the total members at present is around 54. When we say Commonwealth, its roots go back to British Empire. So after World War II, when British Empire was almost dismantled and many independent countries came out, so the Britain formed a voluntary association called Commonwealth to have good relations with its former colonies, that is all the erstwhile colonies of British Empire, which include India. But today any country can join the modern Commonwealth. So the Secretary General talks about domestic violence observed in the Commonwealth members. And the article relates domestic violence to a silent parallel pandemic which is showing extremely disturbing trends during the COVID-19. Also, the data point present in OPED page shows the rise in domestic violence complaints, especially in lockdown period, that is 25th March to 31st May. The syllabus relevant for this discussion is given here for your reference. So firstly, what do we mean by domestic violence? So in simpler terms, domestic violence refers to violence caused by an adult male partner to his female partner in a relationship. So the violence can be physical, emotional, or any well-being of the female partner or both. It also includes physical abuse, sexual abuse, verbal, emotional, as well as economic abuse. When we say relationship, it is not just marriage and also relationship in the nature of marriage. So the author of this news article states that there is an alarming escalation of violence in home against the women and children. This is witnessed in the increase in complaints on domestic violence. In the data point of OPED page, it is given that Indian women filed more domestic violence complaints in the first 4 phases of COVID-19 lockdown when compared to last 10 years. So this shows high prevalence of domestic violence, especially during COVID-19 lockdown. The data point also says that in India, despite the increase, the complaints are just the tip of an iceberg. This is mainly because around 86% of women experiencing domestic violence do not seek help for various reasons. If you ask what are the reasons for escalation of complaints of domestic violence, here one of the reasons is due to increased tensions in household because of COVID crisis. So because of pandemic imposed lockdown, both the partners are forced to stay in homes and as a result there is increased tensions. These tensions are mainly associated with loss of wages, loss of employment, protecting family from infection, taking care of elders or infected persons, etc. Further, the existing gender stereotypes, gender roles, custom practices such as early and forced marriage are also contributing to enhance the tensions. So the news article also states that lockdown resulted in many women becoming pregnant though they have not planned for it. And many among these pregnant women have not been able to access healthcare to carry out abortion due to main reasons in the pandemic. So all these reasons have put a severe strain on physical and mental health of female partners. Also know that whenever an aggrieved female partner requests shelter to the government, such a facility should be provided by the government. This is based on Protection of Women from Domestic Violence Act of 2005. So what is happening is, due to COVID crisis, all such shelter homes earmarked for victims of domestic violence are converted to quarantine centers or COVID care centers. So due to this, even if an aggrieved female partner is requesting government to provide a shelter, government is unable to do so because all these shelters are filled with COVID-19 patients. This also happens to be one of the main factors for increasing the domestic violence cases in India. Our next author talks about why government should act against domestic violence. Here, it is very important to note that women represent 70% of health and social sector workforce globally. Many of them function as frontline health workers and their huge contribution in these sectors amidst the COVID-19 pandemic has to be recognized. In this context, special attention is to be given to them in both their working and living environments, which may expose them to discrimination as well as violence. So what are the suggestions given by the author to handle this issue? First one is to improvise the health systems. Here by health systems we refer to overall health system and not just the prioritized COVID-19 care. In such health systems, victims of domestic violence should be able to access the needed health care including the mental health services. And the second suggestion given by the author is a scheme that assures financial independence to women who lead MSMEs, that is micro, small, medium enterprises, as well as businesses in informal sector. This is to be done through dedicated funding and support for such enterprises and businesses led by women. By doing so, government can ensure financial independence of women and so as to reduce domestic violence. Thirdly, the voice of stakeholders among women should be considered in the decision-making process related to domestic violence. So this can be done by creating opportunities through virtual meetings and seminars to share knowledge, resources and experience. And more importantly, the hotlines and services, that is helpline numbers for all victims of domestic abuse, should be declared as essential services. In addition, government have to make alternative arrangements for the protection of shelter homes. In terms of legal recourse, the hearings and legal advice shall be provided virtually. This will allow the survivors to continuously access justice. At the international level, there is a plan to bring a UN declaration on women and COVID-19. This declaration is aimed to better support women who are facing huge challenges during the pandemic. If such declaration is made, a lot of women across the globe are going to be benefited. In India, in 2016, government came up with a draft national policy for women. This policy is aimed at creating a conducive socio-cultural, economic and political environment where women can enjoy their rights without any discrimination. The policy also talks about holistic and life cycle approach to women's health as well as developing a gender-sensitive legal judicial system. So this is all about this news article. We talked about domestic violence, what is domestic violence and why domestic violence is on rise in India and what government can do in this context. And we also saw UN declaration on women and COVID-19 as well as draft national policy on women. So let us take up the next news article. This discussion is going to be based on these three news articles which talk about ongoing India-China issues. Yes, yet again we are talking about India-China. If you remember, last 30 days we are talking about India-China extensively. We talked about all the issues. So in today's discussion we shall take only what is important from these three news articles in mains perspective. So if you recollect, on June 10th we have discussed an editorial titled Pincer Provocations. On that day we said that India should differentiate the threats from Pakistan and China. It means the type of threat and threat level from Pakistan and China is different and India should prepare accordingly. So coming to today's lead column of editorial page, it talks about India-China relations from a historical perspective with a main focus on 1962 war. The syllabus relevant for this discussion is given here for your reference. Coming to the first news article, that is the lead column, India's continuing two-front conundrum. The crux of this article is India has two geopolitical adversaries, which are obviously Pakistan and China. So this article says that recently India's Chief of Army Staff stated that India remains alive to a two-front war. But author is of opinion that India is very much obsessed about the threat from Pakistan and we are complacent or self-assured about the threat from China. It means we are self-assured that China won't attack. So whenever India thought like this, that is, we are not prepared for a Chinese threat, we paid dearly for it. For example, we can talk about 1962 war. In spite of deteriorating relationship with China, India failed to analyze the threat from China. As a result, we lost the 1962 war. Author also give one more example. When India predicted the threat rightly and prepared accordingly, the results are relatively better. For example, if you see 1971 war, India expected a Chinese movement as well as America's support in favor of Pakistan. So India signed the Treaty of Peace, Friendship and Cooperation with the then USSR. And the result is India won the 1971 war with Pakistan. Further, the author says that we were and still are complacent or self-assuring about the threat from China. So he is of opinion that even today we still think that India and China won't fight. We always self-assured that India and China relations will go in a normal or a softer way. And author cites some reasons for this as well. He talks about recent standoffs in Depsang Plains, Chumar as well as Doklam, where all these standoffs were diffused without any casualties or any armed conflict. Further, the two informal summits held at Wuhan in 2018 and Mamalapuram or Mahabalipuram in 2019 further forced us to believe that all is well between India and China. So the author says that the current situation is more or less similar to what happened in 1962 when we underplayed the threat from China. India always believed that Pakistan could attack us anytime, but we failed to maintain the same vigilance against China. One reason might be the last time when India and China had casualties on both sides is around 1960s or 1970s. Since then, India and China never had any casualties on both sides. So almost all the border disputes or the border standoffs were diffused very smoothly without shedding any blood. But what happened recently, that is 10 days back, that as many as 20 of our Indian soldiers have martyred because of Chinese attack. So author says that it is time for India to learn from the complacency or self-assurance and misjudgment of 1962, and we should be vigilant as well as ready for a war with China. Otherwise, India has to pay dearly as happened in 1962. Apart from this, author also mentions about lack of communication between the government and military establishment. For example, the then General of Army had told the Defense Minister that Indian Army did not have necessary strength to evict the Chinese. But the political leadership didn't heed to Army's concerns, and it was considered as one of the main reasons for our failure in 1962 war. So author says that India should be realistic in our foreign policy objectives, and India should equip its forces to face any threat from anywhere in the border. And finally, the author also discusses why India became the object of Chinese aggression, or India is being a part of Chinese aggression. So in 1964, the Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru said that China wanted the Asian world to realize that it is the powerful country in Asia, and it wants every Asian country to remember this thing. The Prime Minister Nehru also said that in 1962, China was not just making a bid for Asia's leadership, but for world leadership. So in 1962, China wanted to force on India a political settlement where India reorients its policies to suit the Chinese global policies. So author notes that though circumstances are different today from what happened in 1960s, the message is very clear and relevant. Even today, India must be clear about Chinese intentions and its strategic goals, and we should not maintain that complacency with China as we did in 1960s. So this is all about this lead article appeared in editorial page. So there is one more OPED article which talks about the same India-China relations. So this OPED column is more of continuation of what we have just discussed. So this OPED column says that India's foreign policy lacks insights or perspicacity with China. Here author notes that the recent India's assertion on Pakistan occupied Kashmir as well as Aksai Chin were ill-timed. So as a result, the China felt more threatened about India's aggressive statements on Aksai Chin as well as POK. This is because we all know that CPEC, that is China-Pakistan Economic Corridor, passes through POK. So it felt threatened when India's Home Minister said that India one day will have physical authority over both these areas. So author is of opinion that all these recent standoffs between India and China are due to the aggressive statements made by Home Minister in Parliament. Here author also notes that India has all the legal rights to talk about both Aksai Chin and Pakistan occupied Kashmir. The author of this article also says that India failed to fully comprehend China's strategic objectives. Here author outlines the 4 important strategic goals of China. The first one is ensuring India understands that it is not in the same league as China. So it means China wants to assert that India is not equal to China. And the second strategic goal is warning India not to actively oppose Chinese designs to dominate the Indo-Pacific region by aligning with US and its allies. For example, we have formed an informal grouping called Quad. Though not outly said, it is perceived that Quad is formed to counter China's presence in Indo-Pacific. So the third strategic goal is keeping India preoccupied with problems in its immediate neighborhood. By doing so, India cannot act as an alternative pole of power to China in broader Asia region. And the fourth strategic goal is supporting Pakistan economically and militarily, and including the sharing of nuclear weapons to neutralize India's conventional superiority over Pakistan. So these are the 4 strategic goals of China outlined by the author to contain India's presence in Asian region. And the recent standoffs are also a part of the strategic goals of China. That is, keeping India preoccupied with problems in immediate neighborhood so that it cannot act as an alternative pole of power to China. So author is of opinion that India should understand and comprehend these strategic goals of China to give a realistic response to China's aggressive policies in Ladakh as well as in places along the line of actual control, that is LAC. So in this context, what India should do to contain or counter China's aggressive claims as well as aggressive military posture? And the answer given by author here is India should carefully adopt the calculated policies which can neutralize China's diplomatic and military clout in Asia Pacific region. An author here notes that India should do this without sacrificing India's autonomy of decision making in foreign policy. So what author meant is, India by joining with other major powers to contain China, it should not forego its autonomy of decision making in foreign policy. So this is all about this OPED news article. And coming to third one in this regard, that is, for minor tactical gains on the ground, China has strategically lost India. So this statement was said by the former Indian ambassador to China. So the former ambassador is of opinion that China has strategically lost India for getting small land gains along the LAC. He further says that Chinese firms must be kept out of 5G trails and roll out in India. So according to him, this is going to hurt deeply in Chinese pocket. So from these three news articles, what we can take is how India should act with respect to Chinese threat and how India should always be prepared from all kind of threats with respect to China, as well as what India should do to contain China or to counter China's aggressive stand along India-China border. So this is all about these news articles. Let us take up the next news article. Let us take up this news article which talks about Supreme Court judgment on secret ballot. So what do we mean by secret ballot? See, it is a voting method which ensures that all votes are cast in secret. Simply we can say that the choice of voter in an election will remain anonymous. It means only a voter knows to whom he or she has voted. So the secret ballot helps to prevent influencing voters by practices like buying votes, intimidating or even blackmailing. So in this context, Supreme Court observed that secrecy of ballot is the cornerstone of free and fair elections and is very much required for a democracy like India. Further, court observed that when a voter is forced to disclose for whom he or she has voted, it would limit their freedom to exercise franchise. In this context, it is imperative to know that right to vote in India is guaranteed under Article 326 of Indian Constitution. It states that every citizen above the age of 18 years has right to vote. Now let us discuss an important provision on secret ballot under Representation of People's Act of 1951. See, under this act, section 94 says that secrecy of voting should not be infringed. It states that no witness or person shall be required to state for whom he or she has voted in an election. So we can infer that right to secrecy of vote is explicitly mentioned under Representation of People's Act of 1951. In addition, Supreme Court said that a voter can voluntarily waive the right of secrecy. It means the privilege of secret ballot ends when the voter volunteers to disclose to whom he or she has voted. Simply we can say like this, a voter after coming out of polling booth, he can say that I have voted for this party. So here he is voluntarily waiving off his right of secrecy of ballot. In this context, we can relate this thing with Article 19 of Indian Constitution. See, we all know that Article 19 guarantees freedom of speech and expression. Under this article, right to silence or right not to speak is an inherent right. So we can relate this Article 19, that is right to silence or right not to speak, with secrecy of ballot. So this is all about this news article. The displayed practice question will be discussed at the end of session. Let us take up this practice question based on this news article. The question says, it is endemic to a limited area of western Assam in India and a neighboring part of Bhutan. In India, its geographical distribution lies north of Brahmaputra river, bounded on east by Manas river and on the west by Sankosh river. It is protected under Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act of 1972 and is in endangered category of IUCN Red List. So which of the following species is described in the above passage? As you see, a species is described in this passage and 4 options are given here and we should identify the correct answer from these 4 options. Coming to option A, that is Chinese pangolin, here know that it is in critically endangered category of IUCN Red List. As the name suggests, its geographical range is spread across China, Hong Kong, Bhutan, India, Nepal, Taiwan, Vietnam, etc. So you can eliminate option A. And coming to option B, that is red panda. Here know that it is in endangered category of IUCN Red List. And coming to its geographical range, it is present in Bhutan, China, India, Myanmar and Nepal. But the question says the species being described here is present only in Assam, India and Bhutan. So So you can eliminate option B, red panda also. And coming to option C, that is Golden Langur. This is also present in endangered category of IUCN Red List. And coming to its geographical range, it is present only in India, that is in Assam and in Bhutan. Yes, and as given in the question, its geographical distribution lies north of the Brahmaputra river and bounded on the east by Manas river and on the west by Sankosh river. It is also protected under Schedule 1 of Wildlife Protection Act of 1972. Therefore, the correct answer is option C, Golden Langur. And coming to option D, that is one-horned rhinoceros. Here it is important to note that the one-horned rhinoceros population is on increasing trend and is protected under vulnerable category of IUCN Red List. And it is present in India as well as in Nepal. In India, you can find one-horned rhinoceros in Uttar Pradesh as well as in northeastern parts of India. So the correct answer is option C, Golden Langur. Dear aspirants, if you recollect, on 17th June Hindu analysis, we have given conservation status of around 5 to 6 different species, and today we have given 4 more, which are Chinese pangolin, red panda, golden langur and rhinoceros. We request you to make a note of all these important species as these are very potential topics to appear in Prelims 2020. Let us move on to next news article. Have a look at the question. This question is based on this news article, which says that Theni district of Tamil Nadu has bagged the Skoch Gold Award for water conservation and management of water bodies. So in this context, let us have a brief discussion on Skoch Award. So this award is presented by Skoch Group, a non-governmental think tank based in India. So this group mainly deals with socio-economic issues with a special focus on inclusive growth. Talking about Skoch Award, it was set up in 2003. This award is considered as highest civilian honor in the country conferred by an independent organization. This award recognizes people, projects and institutions that go the extra mile to make India a better nation. And these awards are given in the fields of governance, finance, technology, economics and social sector. In addition, this award encompasses the best of governance, inclusive growth, excellence in technology and applications, change management, corporate leadership, etc. This is all about Skoch Award. Let's get back to the question. So 2 statements are given and we are supposed to identify correct statements. The first statement, the award recognizes people, projects and that go the extra mile to make India a better nation. Yes, this statement 1 is correct. Second, they are awarded annually by Niti Aayog in association with IISc Bengaluru. This statement is incorrect since the awards are given by Skoch Group. Therefore, the correct answer is option A, 1 only. Let us take up other practice questions. Have a look at this question. Consider the following statements with reference to Rajya Sabha. The statement 1. When Rajya Sabha passes a resolution to create one or more All India services, that resolution remains in force for not more than 3 years. This statement is incorrect. See, under Article 312 of Indian Constitution, if Rajya Sabha passes a resolution, Parliament is empowered to create an All India service. But there is no time limit or time frame mentioned in the Constitution. So this 3 years is not correct. So the statement 1 is incorrect. Coming to statement 2, Vice President can be removed by a resolution passed by a simple majority of Rajya Sabha and voted by special majority of Lok Sabha. The statement is also incorrect because Vice President can be removed if Rajya Sabha passes a resolution with the majority of all the then members, which means effective majority, and agreed to it by House of Lok Sabha. It means Rajya Sabha needs to pass the resolution with effective majority and Lok Sabha needs to pass the same resolution with simple majority. So the statement 2 is also incorrect. Therefore, correct answer is option D, neither 1 nor 2. Let us take up this mains question. Analyze the significance of Rajya Sabha in preserving the federal features of India. This is a 10 marks question and so the word limit is 150. So in the introduction you can briefly talk about Rajya Sabha, why is it created, and coming to the body you can talk about why Rajya Sabha is significant. You can even add 1 or 2 negative points why Rajya Sabha is not required, and you can take a proper conclusion. Let us take up this mains question. List out the suggestions to improve the protection of women from domestic violence. This is also a 10 marks question and so the word limit is 150. So you can write about various suggestions given in today's news article to protect women from domestic violence. You can also add your own viewpoints how domestic violence can be curtailed. For example, awareness or empowering women, educating women. Whatever you think is apt here, you can include them here and you can take a proper conclusion. Let us take up one more mains question. In a democracy, secrecy of ballot is key to free and fair elections. Discuss. So this question is based on that news article where we have talked about Supreme Court judgment regarding secrecy of ballot. So those points you can include here. For example, Section 94 of RPA Act 1951. We have talked about Article 19. We talked about Article 326, etc. And you can add your own viewpoints, how secrecy of ballot should be maintained, etc. And while ending, take some optimistic look and end with a positive note. Today we have more mains questions, as today's analysis is mostly circled around mains topics. We request you to write the answers and post them in the comment section. We will get back to you with necessary feedback within short time.
With this, we conclude today's news analysis. If you find this session resourceful, click on the like button and show your appreciation in the comment section below. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel. Stay home, stay safe.